Hi guys, I know that it's been a long time since I posted my first video, which was my college reaction video, but I read a lot of your comments. Don't worry, I saw the tons of times people asked for me to upload my essays, my stats, my extracurriculars, and all that information about how I got into the schools I did. And when I was in high school, when I was a freshman, sophomore, junior, I watched a lot of those videos. And I always told myself that if I got into schools that I really dreamed of getting acceptance to, I would do the same thing. And so a year later, even though it took me a while to get to it, I am. For today, I'm going to be reading my Common App essay. I used the same essay for all schools. It took me a couple months to write it and get into the state that I actually ended up submitting it. And, let's just get started. I closed my eyes, put my feet on the pedals, and gripped the handles. What if the brakes didn't work? What if I skidded across the pavement, ripping the skin off my knee? Trembling upon me was my greatest fear, the hill. I gazed at the deep decline, a one-way ticket to my death. I sighed, defeated, jumping off my bike to accompany it down instead. Risk never appealed to me. I've always chosen flight over fight when given the option. When teachers asked me where I was really from, I responded with a smile instead of acknowledging the microaggression. The mocking of my name would be met with silence, not reprisal. I traded confirmation for maintaining the peace, even at my own expense. I feared earning a reputation for being combative and diluted my emotions as a sacrifice. I found solace in history class, where despite being one of only a few students of color, I seldom felt isolated. However, the mistreatment of Black history tugged at my love for the subject. As students rolled their eyes at the sole mention of Black achievement during Monday, February mornings, it hurt to see the contributions of my community deemed unremarkable. Wanting a change, I was afraid of pointing out the elephant in the room. Race, where I risked hostility at the slightest misstep. As I stayed in my room during quarantine, I used social media to distract myself from boredom. Incessantly, I viewed horrors committed against those who resembled me, and with one swipe, I saw my classmates who gleefully posted and carried on as if nothing in our world was amiss. It angered and, strangely enough, scared me. Like a new, taller hill, I endlessly wondered what it would take to change the ignorance I saw amongst my peers. That anxiety bubbled up once again. At the precipice of this new hill, I had a choice. Accept what I couldn't change, or change what I couldn't accept. I chose the latter. I started with what I knew, school. In my government class, the concept of efficacy fascinated me. The civic power that any individual possessed was poignant in theory. Although I was taught ways in which simple people attained local change, I rarely saw this, much less of those with an age, color, or name akin to mine. It terrified me to dare set a precedent and possibly be a bad example. However, the alternative, doing nothing, was unfathomable. I attended my first town hall, skittish around the high-profile attendees for the meeting's topic, the state of Black youth in Anne Arundel County. I nodded at the opinions shared, but a looming concern that hadn't been addressed echoed through my mind. My grievance was simple. I loathed the mistreatment of Black history in schools. Even the term Black history annoyed me. It's American history and shouldn't be relegated to a category of other. I was faced with two choices, speak my truth or go unheard. This time, I rode down the hill. As I finished, people raised their virtual hands to speak. I expected them to move on to the next topic, allowing my statement to melt away with the past. Instead, those ardent raised hands were in response to my point, sparking a new tangent of discussion that rippled throughout the rest of the meeting. At last, riding down the hill meant coursing through the wind, with euphoria and no bruises. through my reticence, I had traded in the risk of being viewed poorly for a worse reality: docility. Silencing myself was worse than any hill or any negative opinion I could have encountered. I discovered speaking out as a tool for change, one I was happy to wield. The thrill of expressing my thoughts and making changes in my community drowned out the sting of potential retribution. For once, I found a risk worth taking. Okay, so that was my comment up essay. I believe this comes in at around exactly 650 words, which is the word limit. And for many of you that are maybe juniors or rising seniors, you're going to be bouncing through a lot of ideas. This was one of the ideas that I had originally. I also had an idea to do an essay about my name. My name is Bunmi, which is Yoruba, and it means God's gift. And names are a very, very important thing in Yoruba culture. But as I was writing it, I still had this idea of talking about a hill. And so I decided to scrap the other idea and focus on this one. And honestly, that's how it goes sometimes. You might have a bunch of ideas and you don't know how to pick, or you might have only one or two and then you just drop one and focus on the other. It is really important to make sure that whatever you do write about, it's written well. Some people try to do very, very complex topics, which might work, but if it's very hard to follow along, then it's not worth the risk, in my opinion. And so even in this essay, there were many, many different things that I changed and kept. For example, I knew that I wanted to start the paragraph with a hook, which is something that grabs the reader's attention and makes them want to continue reading. And I knew that that would be through writing the perspective of me trying to ride down a hill, which I still have never ridden down a hill, by the way. A lot of people who hear this essay think, did you ever ride down a bike? Ride down a hill in a bike? And the answer is no. But I knew I wanted to start off my essay with that scene, and I knew that I wanted the last sentence of my essay to be, I found a risk worth taking, because that kind of summarizes the entire ethos of what I'm talking about. My essay, simply put, was about how I was scared to take risks, and then I learned to take risks. I wanted to focus on a piece of growth that I had endured through my time in high school, and I didn't want to tell a life story, so I just picked one little aspect of my personality and started to write more about it. So a couple quick tips about writing your comment essay. Again, this isn't a life story. Whenever you write, 650 words should be enough. And if you're going over, you need to cut. A big proponent of show, don't tell. There are lots of things that I did in this essay that showed you that I wasn't a risk taker instead of me just telling you. That's why I wrote about how I wouldn't call people out if they mocked my name, or I wouldn't really stand up for myself if I was enduring a microaggression. Those are ways to show a similar idea, which is that I didn't want to disturb the peace, instead of just me only saying it and then moving on. So that's what I mean when I say show, don't tell. The essay should say something that isn't already seen in your application. I believe this because the admissions officers are already going to read everything that you do. Now, I don't think that it's a bad idea to pick something that you did maybe for a long time, but let's say you played piano for a long time, and you want to talk about how that affected your identity. Even though piano's already on your resume, how that affected you isn't. And so I don't think it's bad to talk about that, for instance. But I decided to talk about this town hall that I didn't put on my resume, but that if you do read my resume, since I did a lot regarding history, it makes sense. It gives a lot of added context into why I'm interested in what I'm interested in. And so that's why I decided to focus on that point in my essay, because it would allow the readers to learn something new about me that they didn't already see from another corner of my application. For those of you who are preparing to do your college essay, so writing it, drafting it, read. It is so important that you learn how to read complex articles and narratives so that you can build a very, very specific voice in your writing. That doesn't sound too simple or elementary. As you can see, I used a lot of, I would say, advanced vocabulary and turns of phrase and punctuation, and that comes from the fact that I live in a house full of English majors. I read a lot myself, and so through doing that over the years, I had been able to build a certain way in which I wanted to express my thoughts that was eloquent and nice to read. At least that's what I was told in my admissions file. Next is deeply reflect. This essay, I don't want to freak you out, but it could potentially change your life, as it is the one that goes to all of your colleges. So if you're gonna write it well. And deeply reflect, deeply think about something that encapsulates a piece of who you are that you would like a random stranger to know. Something that only you could have written. That's what this essay should be. And then the last piece of advice I have is that you should definitely start writing this before your senior year. I started writing mine, I think, June or early July before my senior year, and that was due to the fact that I was applying to a lot of fly-in programs, which are programs where colleges will fly you out to see their school if they think you're a competitive applicant, which if you want me to make a video about fly-in programs and how to do applications, I can, because I went to a lot of them. But that kind of helped me because I would send in ideas that I had for essays. So I write drafts and send those ideas in for these applications. And then if I would get accepted to those fly-ins, I would be like, okay, this is a pretty decent draft if I was able to get in these college programs. So, but definitely start writing before. Don't write too early. I would not, like, if you're a junior, if you're a rising junior, do not start writing your column nap because you have so much growing left. And by the time you actually do end up applying to college, that essay will be obsolete. So I think the sweet spot is the summer before your senior year. Okay guys, that is all I have today. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry it took so long for me to start making videos again. Freshman year of college is no joke, but I'm happy to do it nevertheless. And if you have any other video ideas, leave it in the comments below, like, subscribe, and I'll make more videos. Thanks.